Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video I will be doing the 15 question tag. I made this tag up, if you will, because I had some questions for some of the sewing vloggers that I watch the most, and those are Viv Mom Sews, Nikki from Sewing at Midnight, and Lindsay from Inside the Hem, and Main Course, I don't know her name. But those were the four, and I tagged them, and I think hopefully a few of them will do it. I'm nosy, so these questions. But I thought, well, if I'm tagging them and I'm asking them questions, then I should answer my questions, and I haven't really given my own questions a whole lot of thought, maybe some of them. So I'm going to start. What is your favorite online fabric store? This is tough because there's so many, but I find myself going to fabric.com quite a bit. Also, Mood, of course, but the thing is with Mood is it's expensive, right? Fabric.com, though, I will say, if you find fabric, you can shop on their website, and then you could go on Amazon.com, and if you're a Prime member, you can actually find that fabric on Amazon.com. It's fulfilled by Fabric.com. But it'll ship free, so you don't have to spend, you don't have to get to that like $50 threshold to get free shipping. So that's awesome. So those are my two, I guess, go-to. Vogue Fabrics is also pretty good. So, okay, what's your favorite fabric and brand of thread to sew with? And by fabric, I mean like cotton or rayon. So cotton and rayon are actually my favorites to sew with because they're easy. Wool is also easy. But if we're thinking of cotton, like the quilting cotton, it could wrinkle in garments pretty easily. Rayon as well, but I like probably rayon and wools to sew with. Things like tulle and charmeuse are awful to sew with. They're just like when you're trying to cut the pattern, they move. One piece is like all mangled, and the other one, because it's slipped, I just can't. I mean, they're beautiful, but I don't know. I know there's techniques to cutting, like you could put tissue paper or some, you know, or put tissue paper too when you're sewing so it doesn't get stuck in your feed dogs. I'm too impatient to employ that kind of stuff. And for thread, I typically use Gooderman. It's readily available at Joann's, and I like Mettler too. What sewing technique are you not very good at but you would like to master? And that is definitely inserting a zipper. I mean, I know how to do it, I just can't execute it in the first try. I mean, I'm like ripping it out, putting it back in, ripping it out, putting it back in. So I've ordered a bunch of zippers from Wowak, and I'm going to spend like a half a day doing nothing but like putting in zippers, like lapped zippers, invisible zippers, all that. And I'm going to get this because I will not be defeated by a zipper. It's ridiculous. I don't know why. Do you use a universal needle for all sewing projects, or do you use a specialty needle like jersey or ballpoint and different sizes? So yes, I definitely try to use a needle that I think would work best for that fabric. So for instance, right now I'm sewing with a very lightweight, delicate polyester actually, but because it's so lightweight, I'm using a microtex needle, and I'm using a smaller size needle, 7010. So I don't use a universal like 80-12 for everything that I sew. I definitely change it up. Do you usually need to alter a pattern? And if so, what are the alterations you typically have to make? So for me, I am using a smaller bodice size, and for example, for a dress, I will use a smaller bodice size, and then the skirt will be larger. Typically, I have to grade out the waist and then definitely go and use a larger size for the hips, just because my hips are like out there relative to the rest of me. And then also for fitted bodice, the center back seam, I typically have to kind of like pinch out some fabric up here because it will gap. And then at my lower back, I tend to have a lot of extra fabric So those are the ones I make. Oh, and I also will, sometimes the skirts tend to be a little bit long. I like them right at my knee. Okay, and what is your favorite sewing pattern company? For me, I'm just going to say Simplicity, and that's because I have the most patterns. They're Simplicity. I like all of the big pattern companies. I think New Look. Actually, I really like New Look. I've been using a few lately and I really like them. So New Look and Simplicity, same company, right? Their patterns from which company usually don't work for you? I don't really have a company that I can say, oh, those patterns just definitely don't work for me. I think there's always like a bad egg in the bunch. For instance, the Simplicity pattern, and I have a video on it. It's like House 7 or something. Is awful, awful, awful. So I just think sometimes the instructions are bad, the pattern pieces don't match, or there's just something about it. And that happens with all of the pattern companies, in my experience. Do you use a serger? And if so, do you serge before or after you sew the pieces together? So I asked this question because I'm genuinely curious, as I'm just now becoming really comfortable using a serger. I started with a Brother 1034D, which is a great machine, and especially if you're just starting to serge and you don't want to spend a lot of money, it's an excellent machine. It's under $200. I just upgraded to a Baby Lock Imagine, which is awesome, but ridiculously expensive. For me, I'll sew my seam and then I'll serge. I'm still kind of figuring out, the order of things, because when you construct garments, sometimes it's harder to serge just the way the pattern pieces are connected. So I'm still learning the best order of things, of serging and sewing in that respect. So I asked this question because I thought maybe some of the sewing bloggers would have better answers and I could learn from them. And if you do, please share. Do you listen to music, podcasts, or have the TV on when you sew? So I don't have a TV in my sewing room. I usually listen to music or I talk to my cat. He's a very good listener. Not so much a great helper, but he's a good listener. And he has a bed here, so he spends a lot of time with me in this room. What is your dream sewing machine? So I have a Bernina B330. I'd like to go to a B4 series because I want a machine that will clip my threads and then have a bigger bobbin. Now, Bernina makes some amazing machines that are like $10,000 plus. And, if we're talking about my dream machine, that would be great. But on the other hand, these are like for quilters or embroiders, and I don't do any of that. So do I really need all that? Probably not, but hey, if I could have it and not pay for it, sure, why not? But really, I think all I would need is to upgrade to a Bernina 4 series or something. How often do you abandon sewing projects? Probably more than I'd like, because I get bored very easily, and if something's not going right, sometimes I'll just toss it aside and be later, and I never get back to it, and it's in the closet somewhere, just rotting away, sadly. Probably 5 or 6 projects in there, in sewing purgatory. I don't know. I really need to go through it. There might be more. Do you have any? Oh, no. What's your sewing technique for a curved hem? So with a curved hem, I think the key is to have a narrow hem allowance, because the more fabric you have down there, the more it'll bunch up on that curve. There's also, you could put in a basting stitch to kind of ease it in. But I asked this question because I really don't like curved hems, and I thought maybe some of the sewing bloggers might have a better idea. Next question is, do you have any bad sewing habits? And I sure do, and that is not clipping my threads after I take it off the machine, which is why I want a machine that will clip my threads for me. Do you iron your pattern pieces? And yes, I do. For the longest time, I didn't like the iron. I didn't feel comfortable with it. And now I absolutely love it. I think like after you take your garment off the machine and you're like pressing a seam, there's something so satisfactory about it, like pressing it, and it's crisp and it's beautiful. And so I get a lot of joy out of it, and I also get a lot of joy out of pressing my pattern pieces nice and crisp. So, and the last question is, do you have a favorite sewing book or magazine? And I do. The first book that comes to mind is Tailoring. So if you're looking to make jackets or coats, this is an awesome book. I mean, it's just so much information. And I do have a video on my sewing library, which I think might be helpful for some of you, or interesting. For magazines, I like Threads. I like Threads because I have collected quite a few sewing tips along the way in those magazines, so that would be my favorite one. There are some really neat magazines that are based in the UK. I think So Easy or Simply Sewing. They're really great for learning how to sew and techniques, but they're expensive to subscribe to from the US. So if I do ever go back to the UK, I tend to like hunt down as many as I can and buy them. So that's all. Those are my 15 questions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to tag your favorite sewing vlogger or answer them yourself. I will leave the questions below. And yeah, your feedback is always welcome. Thanks so much for watching.